Hey, welcome to Just Shoot It, a podcast about filmmaking, screenwriting, and directing. This episode is brought to you by patron Kyle Hammond. I'm Matt Enlow.
And I'm Warren Kaplan, and today we have Don Cherel on. He is a director that has done some of the best commercial campaigns on TV right now. He is most well known for doing many Geico spots. And through our conversation, we found out that he does those commercials in a very non-traditional way.
Yeah, really genuinely blew our minds in a way that we were not expecting. So, like, the surprise that you feel in the moment in the interview is 100% genuine.
Which is basically that Don also writes those commercials. And that is not a thing that ever happens in traditional TV commercials.
Yeah. We're always wishing, God, I wish I could tweak things or like plus things, and sometimes we get to, but it's never from whole cloth that we get to originate the ideas.
Yeah. So not only is he directing Geico spots, which, you know, if you're not into commercials, I'm telling you right now, Geico makes the best spots in the world ever. He also is like a DP, and he did second unit on Resident Evil. He did second unit on Rambo. He shoots commercials for other directors, like giant directors. And he just has a real interesting path. From high school dropout to Oscar-winning director, DP, to Geico commercial director. He's kind of all over the place. And the kicker, he doesn't live in LA. It's a real roller coaster of an interview.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Before we talk to Don, though, let's talk about our Patreon real quick.
Our Patreon, patreon.com/justshootitpod. You can get stickers, you can get inside info. Most importantly, you can get a Just Shoot It Pod hat.
Yeah. The hats have been going like hats.
How many do we have left?
It might be in the single digits. The Patreon, in case you're wondering, is just a way that you can just say, hey, I like this podcast. I tune in every week. It's helping me out with some things, and I want to help Matt and Oren pay the editors, pay for their fees, and maybe throw more live events, which we are planning on doing soon.
Yeah. It's kind of like, if you think it's worth it to buy our editor, for all of her hard work, a coffee every month, just one, just a latte, she's behind you in line. You're like, hey, Jay, thanks so much. Enjoy a cappuccino. That's kind of the spirit of what we're trying to get out of the Patreon.
Cool. Well, let's get into the wild ride of Don Cherel. Okay, we are here with Don Cherel, straight out of Baltimore.
That's true.
And so I think we were talking before we started recording that you're one of our first guests. This is episode 170. One of our first guests that does not live in LA.
The Delt guys being the main exception.
But that's a regularly working filmmaker.
You're working all the time, making a ton of stuff.
Yeah, I can't do the traffic. I can't do it. And I'm a bad hitchhiker. People see me, and they're like,
Baltimore.
Yeah, there's something about him.
Yeah.
There's an episode of CSI waiting to happen. I don't want to be a part of. I'm just trying to get to work. I don't need to pick this guy up.
So how often would you say you're at home versus traveling for work?
Well, I'm as home as often as I can be because I have 4 kids, and I blame my wife mainly for that because I couldn't do it by myself. But I'm home. It's usually a few week stint, and then on the road for a week or two. I try to. Movies and commercials are very different things. Obviously, the process is very different. So, like commercials, if I'm DPing, if I'm just the cameraman on the gig, I can travel a lot less. If I'm directing, it's usually for 1 week of shooting, 3 weeks on the road.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah, you're stuck in meetings talking about what color the pillows are going to be and how great the shoot's going to be.
They don't even let me lie that much anymore. I try to do it like location scout, tech scout, shoot.
Like 3 days in a row?
No, like for every shoot week, initial location scout,
right?
Tech scout,
shoot. Yeah.
So like if we're shooting for a week, first thing we do is location scout. That's a week. Then I'm home.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Boy.
Got to select them.
Sure.
Right?
Wait, this is for commercials. How often are you shooting like for a week for commercials? Is that pretty often?
He's nodding his head. Yes. Wow.
A couple times a quarter, I guess. Twice a quarter or something like that.
Because are you shooting an entire campaign at once?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually campaigns.
Because these are you do mostly 30-second like broadcast spots, right?
Yeah, 30-second broadcast, and then you have your lifts, whatever they are, depends on the buy, 6-second, 15s, 10s seem to have gone out the window, I guess, but yeah.
That's so funny because especially my travel jobs, we'd narrow things down remotely, and then I'd go scout like my favorite 3 or so.
For your initial location scout.
For my initial location scout. And then the next day we would go with the tech scout.
The next day?
The next day, yeah.
I guess it depends on the job.
I mean, I think
how do you get permits?
That's a good question. Yeah. I think maybe they had already like started to pull them in advance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It depends on where you're shooting too, right? Like,
you're
talking about like Ohio and
like
places
Kentucky.
where
Now
you can-
remember, here's the other thing
pull a
too.
permit.
I don't do the whole agency deal.
Oh, interesting.
Wait, what do you mean?
How do you mean? Yeah.
What does that mean?
I shoot directly for the brands.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Because you
So
left
there's
out, there's no PPM. Like, there's no tap dance of like this, my joke about, the shoot's going to be so great.
Yeah.
There's a whole meeting for that.
Yeah, there's
that you don't have to do.
Yeah, it's a different
Who
process.
writes the script?
I do.
What? All the Geico spots? You write the
Well,
script?
not all of them, but the ones that I do, yeah.
Yeah, so hold on. We really need to unpack this because Orrin and I walked in with a handful of assumptions. Having directed plenty of commercials, you were doing it in a totally different way than we are familiar with.
And, well, Geico, arguably one of the top 3 brands for making famous commercials right now, right? And for the last 10 years or whatever.
Yeah.
You would assume that they would do it traditionally.
Yeah. Well, they're really great at a lot of things, obviously. And one of the things they are
saving you
great
15% or more. In
Yeah.
just 15 minutes.
They are 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. But one thing they're great at is, I think, dissecting the amount of marketing horsepower that an agency usually absorbs. I think they do it internally in such a massive way.
Right.
They're very in tune with exactly how the industry works and what the needs are, and they're a pretty ingenious brand. I mean, Warren Buffett, obviously, who owns Geico.
I did not realize that.
Oh, wow. I did not either.
God, I'm like,
Yeah.
this is the part where I start going, oh God, is this where I get like, do I get in trouble?
You're like, these idiots don't know anything.
No.
What's a camera?
It's
I'm sure he's like on the cover of Forbes right now saying like, I'm a genius for having Geico, or like that's on us, is what I'm saying.
They have a great formula. And I don't know how it works. Look, greater minds than I are behind the way that they sort of gain market share, and they do all the great things that they do. And when it comes to marketing and advertising, they are, for a very specific reason, like America's sweetheart of a brand, because they are so in tune with how that works, how that system works. And then they, I'm in a very privileged position to have worked for them for more than a decade, and shot for them and written for them. And I started writing radio campaigns for them a long time ago.
Wow.
And they're really brilliant at what they do. And it's a very freeing thing for someone who's a content creator like me, and the team of people that we have. We're a fairly small team. I mean, we're not a huge company. It's only 12 of us, and we are, given the great luxury and the opportunity to write and create these campaigns that millions of people see.
Yeah.
And there's nothing illogical about it. It's very, very like.
Well, wait. So do they come to you with a brief and they say,
"Start us from the beginning.
We want to, we have a new product, motorcycle insurance. We want to get like the old guys that are just buying Harleys in the Midwest or whatever." Like,
yeah. When do they come to you, and what do you know at that point? Basically, do they have a product, and then they say, "Hey, Don, can you pitch?" Or like, how does it work? Or can you not say?
I probably can't say all of the details about it. It's a multi-layered process that occurs. But I will say this. When they come to us with the task at hand. It's a very specifically well-designed bullseye for us to hit. And
Gotcha. Like, for instance, it would be like, hey, we're targeting this demo, and we want to incorporate these things, like sport, like broad generalities, like sports or food or something like that. Is it?
Yeah, certainly. And then from a production execution, that's sort of where they, like for us to
then you're running,
pick
with
up
it.
the ball and run with it or whatever.
But what about writing the actual script, like the creative? You do all comedy or mostly comedy?
I try to do mostly comedy. Sometimes it comes out like really intense.
You're always aiming for comedy.
I always aim for comedy. Comedy's like, it's funny. It's like music, it haunts you. Because once you're exposed to it, you chase it. Once you chase it, you try to get it. You don't. You wonder why. And it's this perpetual momentum that you're sort of like a slave to forever. At least that's how it works for me. You just want to make people laugh, and when you want to make people laugh, you don't stop. You don't stop because the room doesn't laugh anymore. Then you pick up a camera. Your joke doesn't land. You write new jokes. You just it haunts you. It propels whatever. The experience of first making people laugh will propel you to continue to make people laugh.
Yeah.
It's addictive.
Yeah, it is.
So Geico comes to you and then you start pitching ideas, or are they like, hey, we want a man to karate chop some wood?
Or maybe does it make sense to even broaden it out a little bit? Because you said you don't do the agency thing in general. Is that true? So it's not just Geico. It's kind of like...
We write the spots and we shoot and deliver the spots.
Yeah.
And I would say Geico's pretty much the agency.
Gotcha. Yeah.
In like sort of housing the...
Like the media buy and all that stuff.
Well, yeah, that, and then the deliverable list and the whole deal. They sort of...
So it's a very holistic relationship, it sounds like. Like you get to do... You're just like, hey, they cut you a check, and then you come back with all the laundry list of things they asked for. Basically, or no?
Well, it's a little more like...
Like, are they on set at all?
Yeah, totally.
Have,
they're totally
involved.
Yeah, it's totally collaborative. It's more, I guess the process would be like they allow us to sort of walk hand in hand with them in developing the deliverables.
Gotcha.
And then we sort of wait for that design, right? We wait for what that the parameter of deliverables might look like. And then we start scripting.
Interesting. So they're like, oh, we kind of have a hunch that we're going to need X number of cut downs and like X number of spots.
Oh yeah, well they're pretty specific. I mean, they're pretty buttoned up.
Sure.
There's very little. I will say this: they're very good designers, and they leave us very little room to screw up. And if we do, we're fired.
Gotcha.
So, they
Cool.
they
Great.
they they leave they're smart people. I mean, these are brilliant people that really leave the heavy lifting to us in our category, and then they do the heavy lifting in their category, which is it takes a massive amount of burden off of us so that we really can focus on creative and production and really getting the idea executed properly to the audience, and it's great because they happen to be the one in a million. I hate to say client, but they are,
Sure,
partner. I like to say we're partners. They happen to be the one in a million partner that their trajectory aligns with ours, and their trajectory, is grounded in their fundamentals, and then our roots are in a complementary industry that they sort of align.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
Let's talk about
when does that
roots,
happen?
actually. Because I'm curious, right? Because I think plenty of our listeners at home, maybe they live in Baltimore, maybe they live in Michigan, maybe they live in Chicago. Who knows? They're all over the country, all over the world. And they're all like, oh, man, Don figured it out, right? Like, how did you... So you said you started writing radio spots with them. Was that the way that you kind of began your career in advertising with all of these brands? Or how did it happen?
I'd rather be lucky than smart. and I was more lucky than smart. And that's the truth of it, honestly. I was working in recording studios. I mean, I dropped out of high school, and I was like, wanted to be a musician, thought I would be a music producer. And realized very quickly this was the late 90s, that was not really an industry that was a feasible thing.
Sure.
So I started working in recording studios, and by that I mean like, hey, you guys hiring? No, we're not. Well, how do I work here? Well, pay $18,000, $20,000 for our 16-week course, and you could be an intern. I'm like,
Sure.
Well, only the one issue there, don't have the 18 grand.
Yeah.
So what I mean, and literally there was somebody cleaning the bathrooms, and I was like, can I clean the bathrooms? How much are you going to charge for that? And I'm like, I'll do it for free. I'll clean the bathrooms. Just
Let
Just teach me how to do
I
that.
just want to learn. I just
Yeah.
want to learn. Like, I want to know what all those knobs do on the console.
Yeah.
Because that to me was like the path to music.
Yeah.
And that was it. That's all I saw. Well, that was also the wrong trajectory, but I learned to clean a hell of a bathroom, I'll tell you that. And that was I learned how much vinegar was appropriate to mix with water and how much bleach you actually use, and I even folded the toilet paper in the triangle. But
Very
then
classy. Very classy.
yeah, thank you. But then I really did get exposure to the proper recording techniques.
When did you pick up a camera? Right, you're an audio guy.
So
right, you've got that technical knowledge.
yeah, I was mixing. I was doing post production for shows, Discovery Channel.
Mm-hmm.
Just audio or
Yeah.
everything?
Yeah, just the audio. And I would mix this show. It was like a medical show. Mixing that and watching the visuals, I'm like, huh. And because I would see it pre-color corrected.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would see it come back color corrected. And I'm like, well, I have to mix it right in the first stop. I have to like get it right out of the gate.
Sure.
They can shoot it and push this much, and then that's what started like
Oh,
my
interesting.
head going,
Right.
Wait a minute.
So you saw behind the curtain a little bit.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And so I started from the beginning all over again. And I'm like,
You
I
clean the
can do
bathrooms
on-set audio.
at the Discovery show.
They wouldn't hire me.
So you did production audio.
I begged to get on set, and I boom operator.
Yeah.
I feel like your story is already so inspiring because like most people that we have here that just had a movie at Sundance or something, their first film or something,
Oh, they rejected.
they went to
Sure, tell us about it.
AFI, they went to this, they went to Harvard, then they did this film school and this, and you're like, we've never had a bathroom cleaner / boom op that is directing like the biggest campaigns in the nation.
Yeah, the biggest in the world.
And writing them too.
I'll double down on boom mopping. It is the best. Maybe Scripty gets it. You're tied for Scripty in terms of just like being aware of what's happening on set, right, and being able to kind of observe and see what you want to do. Like you can steal the little tricks from the director. You hear all the directing. You know all of the things that are happening, but you also are just responsible for your own department. So it's a sweet gig if you want to like
Learn how to
direct. Yeah. Without it being like a huge impact, like that's a great entry point in that we don't really talk about very much on the show.
Well, I always think there's like, if there's a closed set, who do you keep? The director, cam operator, and the boom op.
Yeah. And you
Right.
hear everything. You know what I mean? You hear like those laughs are hot when the director's like, do it this way. And then you see the results directly,
You're closer to the actors than like anyone else
Yeah.
on set or their shoes or whatever you happen to be recording.
Yeah.
Wait, so how do you jump from boom op to director?
Well, the director is the least qualified job on the whole set.
Sure.
You can have very little technical expertise and make your way onto a set, and that's not to say that's how everyone does it. But I didn't do it that way. But the term director, it took me a long time to realize how much weight that carried. I didn't understand like why that was a big thing, because if we got to pop the dolly onto the track, and I know I got 4 grips on the job, and one of the grips is overdoing something else, grabbing something from the truck, another 8 feet of track or 10 feet of track or whatever we need. I'm jumping in there to pop the dolly on because that was my job for a long time.
Right.
And, running cable was my job for a long time. So
when you do that, people freak out a little bit.
Well, I shoot with the same crew pretty much, so they're totally used to it. Everybody's
cool
like, just let him do his thing.
Yeah.
Just he's a nut. Just
because
let him do his
sometimes
thing.
I'll do that stuff, and I'll get one of two things. I'll get like people rolling their eyes, like, "All right, Wanlow, that's fine. We know you're one of the guys
trying to prove it."
Yeah. Or like, "Oh, you're kind of making us look bad."
It's like more of the shame thing. Like, we can do this.
We've got it. Like, you don't need to help us out. We have the right number of people to do this job. Like, you're insinuating something by helping out.
We don't come in and like tell the actors what to do.
Yeah.
Why are you coming in?
Maybe that's how they feel about me. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, but if they're your team, if you're with them all the time, then it's a different deal.
So directing came from, I was doing radio campaigns. And then when you direct radio campaigns, it was a very unique experience because I went from an audio engineer to then being in charge of a story. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I would write it. Sometimes other people would bring it to me. And I would just close my eyes and listen. And I would hear the picture. Mm-hmm. The picture has to live in your mind. You guys are directors. You know it. It's like if you can't close your eye. I heard your podcast about a feature that you're going to shoot in Puerto Rico, and you said, I had some notes about it, and the deaths were awesome, but the relationships, they needed some work. And it's because you had to have closed your eyes and pictured the movie the way that you knew you'd have to live with it in the edit room. And you pictured it, and you were like, yeah, I got some stuff I want to change about it, because that's your vision.
Well, to me, the mark of like a good script, whether you're a director or not, if when you read it, you're picturing in it, not because the scene description is good, just because the flow makes sense in your brain, then it's real easy to shoot. But when you're like, wait, why would she say that? Why would she do that? Or I thought their relationship was like this based on the previous scene. Now it's weird. Like I thought I pictured her as this angry character.
It
now
distorts your understanding of the character.
But when it's written well and the story is flowing, it all you're like, yeah, of course she'd be standing by the window. Mm-hmm. She loves light. She hates vampires.
She loves windows.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, just like you're saying.
When you picture it in your mind, when you open your eyes, that's when you have to fight every obstacle. Mm-hmm. Budget, producers, studios.
Yeah,
whoever, funding, whatever it is, schedules, all the stuff. Oh, I think I did a horrible job of saying where I went from radio to directing.
So no, you said you had to think about story for the first time.
Story. Directing radio is tough. So then you hear the whole thing, and all you have to supplement it is Foley and sound effects. Against
you're like, I can't use another fart sound here.
Well, if it was up to me, you can't have too many.
Dude, that's a very funny and very classy fart. When was the first time you stepped on set as director? What was that job like?
It was a HVAC energy company.
Gotcha. So like a local spot.
Yeah, regional.
Yeah.
And I lost so much money on that job, but I wanted it to look great. So, this is interesting.
Yeah,
I haven't thought about this for a while. Okay, so it was like the first gig, and I just wanted it to, I just wanted to blow everybody's minds,
So you're the production company, and you're like, hey, we're gonna do the job, and I'm gonna direct it.
So they're like, we want to do these TV spots. Mm-hmm. I was like, all right, cool. I'm like, yeah, we want to do 30-second spots and radio.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, we need one spot about heating and one spot about air conditioning. So I came up with this idea. I was like, well, we'll build a kitchen. Mm-hmm. I knew a guy that renovated kitchens. And I was like, hey, man, I remember you saying you, had extra kitchens, right? Like, you would pull, crappy kitchens out of a house. Like, how much would it cost, instead of just taking it to the dump to, rebuild that kitchen? He's like, I don't know, man. It might be like $1,000. I was like, okay, cool. And my father-in-law still owns an ice company. So I was like, if we wanted to like freeze everything, he's like, oh man, no problem. I'll do it for you. No problem.
Sure.
So we froze everything.
What do
Like
you
I
mean?
made it this whole ice. So I rebuilt this kitchen, and then I froze all of it, like all the pieces, because he had this big warehouse, an industrial.
So did
Like
you
ice
hold on?
house.
Did you pour water on top of it?
You have to
Okay.
mist it with a fan and freeze it slowly. It took me a week to freeze everything.
Wait, so were
and
you-
then I brought it. I rented this warehouse in the back of the church,
Uh-huh.
this church, right, and brought each piece in frozen. And then I had this gag where I wanted the.
Wait, how did you keep it cold in the church? Was it winter?
It was no. I brought it in just to shoot it, and then it was
Oh.
all done. And then once it melted,
Wait,
it wilted. it was over.
Literally,
I
your
had one
set
shot.
is melting as you're assembling it.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're not using like 18Ks right next to the kitchen.
Yeah, right.
No, I didn't have big lights on it. I had, small spots. So I wanted the dog to be frozen. Now, I have no idea about, animal,
Sure.
like any of it.
Humane
I'm just
society,
like, I'm a kid, I don't know. So I went to these taxidermy shops, okay, and I found a fox.
Right.
I found a fox. And I got a fox for like $150. And I was like, if I put a collar, like with a tag on the fox, and I drip that thing with ice, who's going to know it's not a dog?
Right.
Right? And if I have a cute little kid petting the fox, you're going to think it's a dog. So that's what we did. And so I had to go to the taxidermy.
Did it work? I don't know why it's so funny to me. but-
Yeah, it worked. It looked like a dog. But so I go to my father-in-law and I'm like, hey man, we got to freeze this fox. Now, he used to be in production many years before so he was like, yeah, man, let's do. I mean, he was all on board.
Yeah,
he
he
was
gets
all on
it.
board.
He gets
He
it.
supplied
Good,
all
good,
the
good.
ice for Ladder 49. That
Cool.
shot
Awesome.
in Baltimore. Yeah. So he's like, he's been a big supporter of mine for a long time. He's a really good guy. And so got the fox from the taxidermy place. Thing I found out is for icicles to drip off of something, you have to freeze it slowly over time. Mm-hmm. If you just like flash freeze something, it won't work.
Right.
So
right.
the water has to like
You want it to
make
look.
the
Yeah.
Right. The icicles.
stalag
Yeah.
tight white whatever it's called. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's what we did.
So you were just slowly building your reel with regional commercials and your own company. And then
Yeah, I never thought about it like building a reel or anything like that. It was like, what's the next gig? Directing, walking on the set the first time, that was like the first gig. And I think it taught me how to produce at the same time, which was you better have all of your solutions well before
Sure.
you walk on the day. To me, in my process, I don't solely focus on actors and performance. I forget who it was. I want to say Hitchcock. I'm probably wrong. I can't remember whose quote it was, but 90% of directing is casting.
Sure. Yeah.
right.
You want to have the environment there for people to. I think Rick Rubin is such a great producer in this way. He creates the environment for art to flow. Mm-hmm. It's like we want the storm system to occur. We're bringing the bottles. Let's capture the lightning. To me, that's my approach to directing. It's like I'm not gonna tell you
Like how to say this in a funny way.
How to fart
Right.
funny.
how to fart funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You better know. You better know that
You're just
this
like, here's the
like
beans.
that's kind of funny,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
this is way funnier. Like that's funnier.
It is genuinely much funnier.
It's much funnier. And so
And you're hoping that the people you bring on are funnier than you in that
absolutely.
particular way.
They have to outact me because I'm a hack. So they better when it comes to acting. They have to. They have to. They must. I mean, that's the gig.
Well, so I want to ask, because we're kind of running out of time a little bit, but your stuff is the Geico stuff you've done, which is the stuff I'm most familiar of yours with, is just so funny. What are your tips in casting? And I'm also interested in locations, like what you look for in a location.
I go really deep into the locations, and I have a great location manager. She's the greatest location manager and scout. And here's the reason. We agree, and my whole crew, we all agree on very basic core fundamentals, which are it starts with the story. Mm-hmm. It starts with the creative. And then the location is the story. That's the deal. You can't fake that part of it. Like, so how much of it can you not fake? Mm-hmm. Because we know we have to fake so much. And then actors respond to an environment where they're free to do their thing. They want to sing, man. They want to sing. They don't want to be told how to sing. They want to sing. If you can build an environment where they are free to feel like they can sing and hit a wrong note and then course correct, that's way better than me coming in, interrupting their flow and saying, hey, man, you were off by half step.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I sometimes like to say, let's make some mistakes.
Yeah. Totally.
So do you find that when you're in a casting session, like, are you still, because I think, we've been overruled every once in a while against our best instincts.
Sure.
Like, do you find that you're still kind of battling people in terms of who you think is right, or how does that work for you? Or are they like, well, Don knows what's up, it's good.
Well, you know what? Look, I go for it. 100%. And I'm not always right. Mm-hmm. I think, the funniest thing is going to be if you play the scene like this. And then there's someone...
the audition, you're saying?
Yeah, in the callback, yeah. And then the actor might say, well, I kind of thought the character is maybe not so dominant. Maybe they're subordinate in this way, but they're sort of, surreptitiously saying X, Y, Z. Or there's someone, on the couch on our side who's saying, why don't you have them try it like this? Mm-hmm. After I do my 100% go for it, I want that feedback. I do. I think the important part is having the right people in the room, behind the camera and in front of the camera, in the casting. Because when you get on the set, it's done.
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, I totally have been upended, but to my delight.
Oh, good. I will say, I feel like in most situations when I'm like fighting really hard for an actor, when I'm like, I like this person, they're like, well, we don't really like this because this and this and this, unless their reason is like, well, we need to balance the diversity or whatever, some real technical reason. If it's just like,
yeah, we've got two blondes and we need a redhead, or something. Yeah.
But when I find that when I fight really, really hard for something, that that I usually get like what I want. But a lot of times I'm afraid to fight. Like, I'm like, well, if all these 3 agency folks don't get what I get from this person, maybe I'm wrong,
Yeah.
And that's when I feel like things...
It's good.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it, because we're asking our actors to be that vulnerable.
Right.
Sure.
We can't be exempt. Right?
So this is my move, Don.
Okay.
Specifically with casting. Because the thing that I'm oftentimes fighting against is that 9 times out of 10, the client mostly, but the agency a little bit as well, they'll go hard on the on how attractive someone is. Like if I have to choose between someone who's funny and somebody who's great looking, they'll always lean towards the great looking person. And my move in that circumstance is always
that's why I'll always get hired. So
there you go. Yeah,
not easy for us.
Yeah, sure.
Not easy.
I'll
being handsome,
being
so
good looking.
Curse I was born with.
Oh man.
Yeah, and they'll always say like, we want real looking.
They'll
people.
want real people who are real models is what they mean.
They're like, oh, she looks real. She's got freckles. She is a supermodel.
Yeah,
with freckles.
Yeah. She's a like 18 and 1 day year old.
Right. Let's hire somebody with an extra thumb.
Yeah. But I'll go. Yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting choice. I think if you want to go with something like a little more like CW, kind of like heightened, sort of like model-esque, like, you know, like a CW sort of show, I think that's a really cool way to go.
And they're like,
I was
love
thinking,
CW.
I was thinking a little
Diaries.
more grounded. Yeah. And sometimes it has backfired on me a couple times, but for the most part, they know that that's a dig.
Now,
that's
you
a
guys,
burn.
you use casting directors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every once in
So-
a while, I'll bring in a few ringers. I'll be like, hey,
Right.
bring these guys in, please.
I mean, my casting directors are like awesome. I'll give them a plug too.
Yeah.
Dowd
who do you
Roman. Dowd Roman. They're awesome.
Yeah. They're out here, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Same cattle
That's
call
where you were
spot
coming
down.
from, too, right? Yeah. Cool.
And they're awesome. And
Were you
they
doing
also
Geico today?
No, not today.
Okay.
They but these guys, he'll walk in the room
Mm-hmm.
and he knows all of them, you know. Roman knows all of them.
The casting director knows all the actors.
Oh yeah, totally. He walks in and he'll just go and then walk out. So it's just a quick, oh, it's you. Quick head shake, no, and then out. If he doesn't come in, he's leaving it up to you.
Oh, interesting.
Wait,
But
he's
they've
telling
already
you
done a
not to cast
preliminary.
someone?
Huh?
He's telling you not to cast someone?
Like, they're just not
They're
nailing.
not hitting the mark.
They're not hitting it. Yeah. They're just not hitting it.
Yeah.
Maybe
Actually,
did I just reveal the whole thing?
No,
I don't know,
no.
but-
do you
I love
cast
it.
out of 200 South? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that my last thing I
Wait.
cast out of there,
200 South is
Next to the
La
Petco.
Brea.
Yeah. I call it the Petco auditions.
Yeah.
They
Now,
have
I've
a-
never cast out there, but my wife is an actor and she'll go in there all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so
that's
they
good.
have this really nice setup where the casting director is outside the room watching the audition on camera.
Oh, I see.
Because a lot of times they don't.
And
do that.
and they've already, you know, my process. They do all of the prelim stuff.
Including the call down to who's you're calling back, or do you choose the callbacks?
I choose the callbacks, but
Just off tape, right?
yeah. So like for each role, I try to keep it to 10 or 12. You know,
Gotcha. Yeah. So it's not super hefty then. That's like
I mean,
depending on
he'll
how many
see
spots.
20 or 30.
Yeah.
You know, but that's 10 per role.
Sure. Yeah.
So-
That's still a long day. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sometimes 2 days, sometimes 3 days.
Man, casting is the
One time I had to populate a whole town up in Pacoima. A whole town.
Right, all with featured people. Not
Oh my
extras.
god, yeah. When I did the Money Man stuff, I don't know if you ever saw it, where the guy was covered with money on the motorcycle.
Oh wait, I
Yeah.
have seen those spots.
yeah, that was mine, and
Yeah.
we had to literally populate a town. I mean, it was hundreds and hundreds of
that's-
people.
And you couldn't just do
No,
extras
because they
casting?
all had to have a California motorcycle license.
Oh.
Hello. Should have seen that one. Hey, here it is, man. It's legit. It's looks like it's temporary, but it's pretty much legit.
Wait, so when you're looking at actors and casting, what's the like? Do you just watch them do the material? Like,
Just
is there
your
any?
Spidey
Well,
sense,
remember, I've
basically.
written the scripts, so
Right.
I'm, or, and it's not just me. There's two other writers. So, and we were writing today. We were writing a new campaign for somebody else, and so we have an idea in our minds, and then the actors come in, and we see the words acted out, and we have that moment of truth where it's like, we wrote a turd.
Yeah, sure.
Wait,
yeah,
does
is
that
this
happen
bad or the act
between
bad?
the original audition and the callback? Do you change the script a lot when you see people?
No,
read?
only the callback. I mean, no, it's the callback because you have so many bad,
bad actors.
Yeah, just or whatever. The delivery's not right or whatever it is, you know, because you want a portion of it to be interpreted, but at least seeing the more focused performance, that's when you really have the moment of realization to say, we shouldn't have wrote it down like that. We shouldn't have wrote it down like that. And then we change it because the sentiment is there, obviously.
Right.
And that's what we're preserving. You know, we're preserving ideas. We happen to have the luxury of, a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times we're sort of crafting the script so that the essence of the idea is preserved, even though the syntax changes or the language changes, the grammar changes. Yeah, and then you see the character bring something totally new to it. And a lot of times we go, oh, man, that's right on.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That
We're going to take your idea, give it to this other actor.
That happens too.
Sure.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's rough. How do you deal with that, actually? Like what do you...
We just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's something right and, it just kind of shakes out in the end.
I mean, we just do it because a lot of times that's the idea we thought would be good, but we didn't write it that way. And that, so
like we were getting at this and you said it right. Yeah.
Yeah. And
what's your deal on like pantomiming during auditions? Are you against it, for it? Do you care?
I like for them to rehearse things as scripted. Then they come in. Depending on what they do, it's a tolerable thing. But I really do wait. I'll do this a lot of times, to perhaps the mystery of a lot of actors. I'll say, do it again, but I'd like to see it slower.
Slower.
Always.
Blowing my mind. I've only said faster ever. Like I never say
that's
slower.
where you're going to get to.
But he's doing a lot of 30-second commercials too, which
yeah, sure.
But
when you're doing like a 5-minute scene.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing about slower. They'll find their beats. You tighten their beats. You tighten the beats.
Don, that is a A+ tip, man. That is so good.
Yeah, cool, man.
Wait,
Slow it down. Look, that's when if you want to learn how to play the banjo, listen to a great Flatt and Scruggs
like
recording.
Steve Martin.
He is a good.
He is
a good banjo player. I mean, there are great banjo players, and then there's Steve Martin.
Yeah,
but
he hired all of them to back him up.
So he probably has listened to a Bela Fleck record and slowed it down to half speed, and that's how you find your beat. So when you hear bing ding 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 ding, what you're really hearing is that person's rehearsal of a bing ding diddly ling ding 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 diddly ling ding ding. So that's what I like to do with actors. I like to say, let's find what you're latched onto, and let's slow it down. We don't have to make the time right now. This is the time to tighten it. And then you see the performance. And then that's really when you can tell if your jokes are working or you're...
That's so interesting, man. That's so good. Because I feel like... I don't want to speak for other people, but like so often I think we're thinking of like, how do you get it all in there? You know what I mean? Like, I've been given a script that's I know is too long, right? Like that's really should be 45 seconds and they want it to be a 30, right? And so I'm like, can I find someone who can just cram it all in there and make it work somehow?
Micro machines it.
Yeah.
Well, think about what you're doing. You're boiling down the essence of an idea. So you as the director have to decide what's the idea. And if there's two, right? If there's some compound that exists, which darling do you kill? Sophie's Choice.
That's so funny though, because I'm reminded that because you've written the spots, you have more latitude than we do.
I mean, I've never worked on a 30 that's not too long. I don't think.
Right? Like it's just.
See, man, your stuff should be coming in like okay. So here's
6
a good
jokes, and it's I don't know. We just have time for one.
I don't
one
know
and a tag.
I don't know if agency people listen to this or not, but
some do.
Yeah,
the smart ones.
We've actually both gotten jobs from agency people.
Okay, here's the deal: hire these two guys, but write the scripts at 18 seconds.
Yeah.
18 seconds.
18.
Wow. So
Boom.
Almost half.
Yeah.
For a 30. With a 6-second end card.
18 seconds of meat. They won't write it under.
It will never happen. No, I know. I know.
They're shooting for 30, they write for 45. So
Yeah.
have them shoot for
I
18.
mean, I think the move now on 10:07 p.m. on Monday, June 17th is from now on, I can be like, look, the guy that does the Geico spots told me.
Yeah.
18 seconds.
You remember when that dog was eating in slow motion? Not slow motion, but like everyone's frozen.
Yeah. If you like, it was a fox. If you like, Geico commercials, then do it. If not, don't worry about it. Just write your 45-second commercial. It will squeeze to 30, and then you'll tell me there's a 12-second end card.
I love the premise of this show, which is just shoot it, because that's what you have to do. You know, if you want to tell a story, just shoot it. Like when I first started, I would fight everything I could just to get access to a DV, little DVX 100 camera or a mini DV anything, and then just to get to 16 millimeter, just to get my hands on the tools to tell the story. And if that's your deal, if that's what you're after, you got to go for it. And you have to make no apologies. Don't take on a bunch of student debt. Going to NYU, USC, wherever it is, that's not the answer. You want to tell a story, grab your iPhone and tell a really compelling story. And if it's just for yourself, tell that story and be satisfied with that story. Just shoot it.
Oh, nice. Do you mind if we use that in a Spotify ad?
Go ahead, man.
Unpaid endorsements.
I recorded a record.
Hey, there you go.
Would you be paid for it if people buy it?
No, it's like
I think that counts.
Don, tell us about your record. What's it called?
it's called Handmade Content.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
How would one listen to it?
Don Cherel music. It's totally streamable. I guess you could buy it, so maybe it's a partially paid
endorsement.
but
That's okay, man.
Nobody's
Yeah.
making any money on it. Trust me on that. It's
It's
so
a negative payment.
I did a project with a great buddy of mine named George Massenberg, who invented the parametric equalizer. Great friend of mine. And I had some songs, and I said, George, I'd love to do some tunes, And he's like, well, let me hear them. So I played him a tune. He goes, we got a lot of work to do. But we did it. So we recorded 11 songs and had a good time doing it. And so it's called Handmade Content. It's just for fun, but it was a great time, and I'm very proud of it.
Okay, Matt, you got anything to endorse?
New show on HBO, Los Spookies. You guys know the show?
No.
It's the new Fred Armisen show.
I love Fred Armisen.
It's all in Spanish, and it is about this group of young goth kids in Mexico who get hired to do spooky shit for people. So in the pilot episode, a priest is like, oh man, this young priest is getting all the attention. So I need an exorcism. Can you guys whip up a possession for me so I can exorcise someone? And then they do a kind of lo-fi possession so that he can perform an exorcism. But they're just goth kids who are into spooky shit. And it's super charming and funny and weird and great.
there's subtitles?
Yeah.
Just because I'm working on a couple pitches right now with my writing partner. We're kind of trying to break this story, and I think we're pretty close. But I was talking to another writer friend of mine, and he said whenever he's just trying to figure out his story, he just casts the movie or the show or whatever.
That's fun. Yeah.
Just goes to IMDb or watches movies, watches shows, and oh, that person's kind of cool. And then he'll just put a picture of them up on the wall, while he's figuring out the story. And it just gives him ideas oh, I can picture this guy and this girl doing this thing or whatever, right? And so today we started doing it. We started kind of casting.
Is there
story.
anyone you want to that you cast that you could talk about?
Fake cast?
Yeah, fake cast.
I just find myself explaining her why I like certain characters, like Hugh Jackman in Prisoners. You know that movie? Mm-hmm. We have a character that's kind of like that, this kind of lone wolf type character. And so just kind of, and then there's, Lee Pace? He was this super lovable guy in Pushing Daisies. He's the main, kind of boyish boy, but then he's the main guy in Halt and Catch Fire. It's him and Scoot McNairy are the two guys that are starting the company together. So yeah, those are some names that we
Yeah.
you were looking at.
So it's kind of all over the place. But it could just be like Bruce Willis would be helpful for you just as a process.
Yeah,
right?
like a Bruce Willis type. I think it's better to go a little less
Movie star.
cliche, I guess. I don't know. Like even
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we talk about like the girl from 8th grade as being like our main character.
I guess what I'm trying to say is just like whatever helps you write the character a little bit more clearly.
Yeah, but also I guess with an eye for like making more interesting decisions as opposed to like more obvious decisions.
You got a problem with Bruce Willis?
I think Bruce Willis is like so like people associate so many things with him that it's like hard to like imagine.
Fair
But I think someone like
Demi Moore.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But like
he's never going to get out of her shadow.
Yeah, sure. Exactly.
How could he?
Or Ashton's at that point. Where can listeners find out more about you? Say they like, do you tweet? Are you on Instagram? What's your deal? You got a website? You got a company website?
DCP Productions.
Really?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, they don't do DCPs.
Yeah, that is confusing.
Why?
DCP, what does it stand for? It's like
Digital cinema projection
that's
file
like
or something.
That's like the file you need if you want to put a movie in the theater.
This is an interesting story. The P is for professional. So it's Don Cherel Professional Productions is what DCP stands for.
Well,
There it is.
That is
Coming
like
from the guy in a bandana, a fishing shirt, and a bathing suit.
That is such a good.
This is my fanciest bathing suit, by the way. I was
that's good.
leaving this morning, and my wife goes, "Did you pack like pants?" I go, "No."
I'm like, this is LA, baby.
Yeah, DCPProductions.net.
Well, if you want to find out more about the podcast and this interview and all the stuff we talked about, go to justshootitpodcast.com. You can also email us your questions, comments, thoughts, opinions on fart sounds at justshootitpod@gmail.com.
You can find us across all social media at Just Shoot It Pod. Me at Mr. Madden Low.
And I'm at Smitey Pyleg on Twitter and at O'Kaplan on Instagram. Our producer is Madeline Rosebot. Our editor is Jay McCullough. And our webmaster is Ewan Williams. Rate us on iTunes if you get a chance. And thanks for listening. And the music you're listening to right now is from the Free Music Archive and the artist Jahzzar. And we will catch you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.